On this episode of The Pharmacy Doctor, more drug shortages, a new use for Cialis, and how long to use medicines for osteoporosis. And now, drug therapy news for you on The Pharmacy Doctor. Welcome. Those stories coming up in just a moment, but first, on October 14, 2011, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, FDA, approved Feraprox, deferriprone, to treat patients with iron overload due to blood transfusions in patients with thalassemia, a genetic blood disorder that causes anemia, who had inadequate response to prior chelation therapy. Patients with thalassemia have excess iron in the body from frequent blood transfusions, transfusional iron overload, a condition that is serious and can be fatal. These patients also have a risk of developing liver disease, diabetes, arthritis, heart failure, or an abnormal heart rhythm. The standard of care to treat transfusional iron overload is chelation therapy, where chemical agents are used to remove heavy metals from the body. Feraprox is intended for use when chelation therapy is inadequate. Feraprox represents the first new FDA-approved treatment for this disorder since 2005, said Richard Pazdur, MD, Director of the Office of Hematology and Oncology Products in the FDA's Center for Drug Evaluation and Research. The safety and effectiveness of Feraprox is based on an analysis of data from 12 clinical studies in 236 patients. Patients participating in the study did not respond to prior iron chelation therapy. Feraprox was considered a successful treatment for patients who experienced at least a 20% decrease in serum ferritin, a protein that stores iron in the body for later use. Half of the patients in the study experienced at least a 20% decrease in ferritin levels. The most common side effects seen in patients who received Feraprox included nausea, vomiting, abdominal and joint pain, chromaturia, neutropenia, and an increase in the level of a liver enzyme that may be indicative of tissue or liver damage at unsafe amounts. The most serious side effect seen in about 2% of patients treated with Feraprox was the development of agranulocytosis, a serious and potentially life-threatening reduction in the number of granulocytes, a type of white blood cell that fights infection. On October 7, 2011, the FDA announced approval of Juvasync, sitagliptin, and simvastatin, a fixed-dose combination prescription medicine that contains two previously approved medicines in one tablet for use in adults who need both sitagliptin and simvastatin. Sitagliptin is a dipeptidyl peptidase 4 inhibitor that enhances the body's own ability to lower elevated blood sugar and is approved for use in combination with diet and exercise to improve glycemic control in adults with type 2 diabetes. Simvastatin is an HMG-CoA reductase inhibitor, or statin, approved for use with diet and exercise to reduce the amount of bad cholesterol, low-density lipoprotein cholesterol, in the blood. This is the first product to combine a type 2 diabetes drug with a cholesterol-lowering drug in one tablet, said Mary H. Parks, MD, Director of the Division of Metabolism and Endocrinology Products in the FDA's Center for Drug Evaluation and Research. The FDA has recently become aware of the potential for statins to increase blood sugar levels in patients with type 2 diabetes. This risk appears very small and is outweighed by the benefits of statins for reducing heart disease in diabetes. However, the prescribing information for Juvasync will inform doctors of this possible side effect. The company will also be required to conduct a post-marketing clinical trial comparing the glucose-lowering ability of sitagliptin alone compared to sitagliptin given with simvastatin. Juvasync is approved with a medication guide that provides important information to patients. The most common side effects of Juvasync include upper respiratory infection, stuffy or runny nose and sore throat, headache, muscle and stomach pain, constipation, and nausea. The FDA has announced the approval of Combivent Respimat, ipratropium bromide and albuterol sulfate inhalation spray for patients with chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, on a regular aerosol bronchodilator who continue to have evidence of bronchospasm and who require a second bronchodilator. Combivent Respimat contains two different types of medicines that open airways in the lungs to help patients with COPD breathe better. Combivent Respimat is a suitable alternative for patients who are currently using Combivent inhalation aerosol. Combivent inhalation aerosol is being phased out because it contains chlorofluorocarbons, CFCs. CFCs are chemical compounds that decrease the ozone layer. As a result, Combivent inhalation aerosol will not be available after December 31st, 2013. Combivent Respimat does not contain CFCs. Inhalers that contain CFCs are being phased out due to an international agreement called the Montreal Protocol on Substances that Deplete the Ozone Layer. By signing this agreement, the United States promised to make it illegal to make or sell substances that decrease the ozone layer. Most inhalers that contain CFCs have already been phased out as part of this agreement. On October the 6th, 2011, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration approved Cialis, tadalafil, to treat the signs and symptoms of benign prostatic hyperplasia, a condition in which the prostate gland becomes enlarged, and for the treatment of BPH and erectile dysfunction when the conditions occur simultaneously. Cialis was approved in 2003 for the treatment of erectile dysfunction. Common symptoms of BPH include difficulty in starting urination and a weak urine stream, a sudden urge to urinate, and more frequent urination, including at night. Cialis should not be used in patients taking nitrates, for example nitroglycerin, because the combination can cause an unsafe decrease in blood pressure. Also, the use of Cialis in combination with alpha blockers for the treatment of BPH is not recommended because the combination has not been adequately studied for the treatment of BPH, and there is a risk of lowering blood pressure. The FDA has approved 8 other drugs to treat symptoms of BPH. Cialis is manufactured by Indianapolis-based Eli Lilly and Company. On October the 11th, 2011, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, FDA, warns the public that the leukemia drug Sprycel, dasatinib, may increase the risk of a rare but serious condition in which there is abnormally high blood pressure in the arteries of the lungs, pulmonary artery hypertension, PAH. Sprycel is used to treat certain adult patients with Philadelphia chromosome-positive chronic myeloid leukemia, CML, or acute lymphoblastic leukemia, ALL. Sprycel works by blocking the action of an abnormal protein that signals cancer cells to multiply. The cumulative worldwide exposure to Sprycel is estimated to be 32,882 patients based on the total sales volume between initial approval in June 2006 and June 2011. Since approval, cases of PAH have been identified in the manufacturer Bristol Myers Squibb's Global Pharmacovigilance Database. No fatalities from the condition have been reported. 12 cases of PAH from the manufacturer's database were confirmed by right heart catheterization, and Sprycel was identified as the most likely cause. As a result of PAH, the heart must work harder to pump the blood into the lungs. Over time, the overworked heart muscle may become weak and lose its ability to pump enough blood through the lungs. Symptoms of PAH may include shortness of breath, fatigue, and swelling of the body, such as the ankles and legs. In reported cases, patients develop PAH after starting Sprycel, including after more than 1 year of treatment. Patients with PAH during Sprycel treatment were often taking other medications at the same time or had other coexisting medical conditions. Other medical conditions may also cause symptoms similar to those seen with PAH. Therefore, in symptomatic patients, if other causes have been ruled out, a diagnosis of Sprycel-associated PAH should be considered. PAH may be reversible if Sprycel is discontinued. Healthcare professionals should note that Sprycel may increase the risk of PAH, which may occur any time after initiation, including after more than 1 year of treatment. Patients should be evaluated for signs and symptoms of underlying cardiopulmonary disease prior to initiating Sprycel and during treatment. Symptoms of PAH include dyspnea, fatigue, hypoxia, and fluid retention. Patients should report symptoms before initiating invasive procedures. More common etiologies of dyspnea associated with Sprycel therapy should be excluded, including pleural effusion, pulmonary edema, anemia, and lung infiltration. Since PAH may be reversible upon discontinuation of Sprycel, a diagnostic approach of interruption of Sprycel treatment may be considered to observe for improvement. Right heart catheterization can confirm the diagnosis by showing normal pulmonary capillary wedge pressure, less than 15 millimeters of mercury, but elevated pulmonary artery pressure, mean PA pressure greater than 25 millimeters of mercury, indicating that the hypertension is precapillary and not a consequence of left heart failure or chronic lung disease. If PAH is confirmed, Sprycel should be permanently discontinued. Healthcare professionals, or patients also, should report adverse drug events to the FDA MedWatch program. Drug shortages are voluntarily reported to the FDA by manufacturers, healthcare professionals, and patients. Drug shortages may be caused by a manufacturing delay, increase in demand, manufacturing quality issues, delay in the manufacturer receiving raw materials and components from suppliers, or a manufacturer discontinuing drug production in favor of newer, more profitable drugs. Here are the drug shortages reported currently. Advisory committees provide FDA with independent opinions and recommendations from outside experts on applications to market new drugs and on FDA policies. The marketing applications include data to show the safety and effectiveness of human drugs. The outside experts receive summary information about the applications and copies of FDA's review of the application documents. Based on this information, advisory committees may recommend approval or disapproval of a drug's marketing application. FDA generally follows an advisory committee's recommendation but is not bound to do so. A calendar of pending meetings up through December 2011 is available on the FDA's website. On October 17, 2011, the committee is scheduled to discuss supplemental new drug application for Azilect rasagiline mesylate tablets manufactured by Teva Neuroscience, Inc. for the following proposed indication: treatment of patients with idiopathic Parkinson's disease to slow clinical progression and treat the signs and symptoms of Parkinson's disease as initial monotherapy and as adjunct therapy to levodopa. Azilect, a selective irreversible MAO inhibitor, was approved in 2006 to treat Parkinson's disease but did not include slowing clinical progression in the labeling at that time. Pharmacogenomics can play an important role in identifying responders and non-responders to medications, avoiding adverse events, and optimizing drug dose. The table being shown lists FDA-approved drugs with pharmacogenomic information in their labels. Biomarkers may include gene variants, functional deficiencies, expression changes, chromosomal abnormalities, and others. The Food and Drug Administration Amendments Act of 2007 gave the FDA the authority to require a Risk Evaluation and Mitigation Strategy, REMS, for manufacturers to ensure that the benefits of a drug or biological product outweigh its risks. The table being shown provides a list of REMS that have been approved by the FDA.